Hey guys, it's Adam from Loose Pixel, and welcome back. Now, back at the beginning of 2019, in fact, I believe the first video that I posted in 2019 spoke about social media and how, by its very design, has and does have a very profound impact on the frequency that we produce artwork at and the quality that can be achieved under those circumstances. And it's a subject that really resonated with a lot of you. It was a very hot topic, and there have been hundreds of comments and tens of thousands of views on this video as a result of it. So it's definitely a subject that resonates and impacts you on a day-to-day basis, which of course, as we all know, social media does. But today, I don't want to look at how things were and how things are. I'd rather like to share some predictions based on the experiences that I've had in my life, things that I've noticed happen that share the same circumstances as this very topic does, and where I witnessed it go. And in witnessing this trend, where I believe the future of social media will go, of course, most specifically for us artists. Now, these predictions are in some ways global to everybody in general, but some are very specific to us artists. And it's something very much worth knowing and spreading the word about. This is a conversation we need to share with people. This is a topic we need to bring up with people to feed this flame. And you'll see why. So to bring you back, what actually prompted this is trends. A trend that I've been noticing happen in social media, namely YouTube, but a lot of popular online content creators. And what they've all started to develop the nerve to do. And it's a very big deal because for a lot of these content creators, myself not included, but for a lot of these content creators, YouTube is their source of income. It's their career. It's what they do 24 hours a day. So their very livelihoods, their day-to-day self-esteem, their feelings of self-worth, etc., are completely wrapped up in that line, that chart that goes up and down from day to day. It has a very profound influence on their lives. And they know that how many views and how many subscribers that they get on their videos has a direct impact on whether or not they pay the bills, right? Very, very popular YouTubers do extremely well, but not forever. And not so popular, not so successful YouTubers really, really struggle. I personally find it crazy that anybody would take the chance of trying to make a living off of YouTube because of how little it pays out for the work that you put in. But the trend I'm starting to notice is, despite this incredible demand and despite this incredible stress that these YouTubers go through, that manifests itself in many different ways, publicly very often, they are starting to speak out against social media. They're starting to publicly pull the plug on their channels. I'm talking about YouTubers that have millions of subscribers, like Matthew Santoro, or the guy, I can't remember his name, from Vsauce 3, or Kaylee Elise. And I'm sure you can name at least half a dozen to not a dozen very well-known YouTubers that have vocalized the stresses and the difficulties of being a YouTuber. I've listened to videos. I remember even Peter McKinnon, a very popular photographer, videographer, Canadian YouTuber that went from 0 to 1 million in a very short period of time, has seen a huge amount of success, make videos based on the fact that he doesn't know what to produce. What the hell do I make a video about? How do I keep pumping out ideas all the time? How do I keep producing stuff? How long can I stretch this out before it becomes completely watered down and obsolete? And this is one of the stresses that a lot of these very successful Okay, I'm putting emphasis on the word successful YouTubers are starting to get very public about. Matthew Santoro said it's time for me to not commit to doing my 50 amazing facts. Kaylee Lee said, I'm taking a break from YouTube. I can't take it anymore, especially since they demonetized a lot of, quote, dark matters subjects and stuff like that. But even a guy like Vsauce, I mean, how many science topics can you keep people fascinated about? It's a very challenging endeavor. And what this should be telling you is you are, just like everybody else, striving to make a name for yourself online. This is the main reason why my last video struck a chord with so many of you guys. It's because this affects your day-to-day life. It's a very important part of your life. And when you see people that have that success, they have millions and millions of subscribers, and they pull the plug, what does that mean for you? Right? Well, it doesn't sound very promising, does it? It sounds like even if I do succeed, I am destined to fail under the current model of social media. And this is what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about where things are going to be in the next 5-10 years and how you can grab your surfboards and ride this wave in the right direction. Not only ride the wave, but help to control the direction of the tide as far as that goes. And you do. Don't take for granted for 2 seconds that you do have a significant impact on where this is going to be going moving forward. In fact, I believe that you being an individual is going to play a very big part in this. So what do I mean? Well, what originally sparked this thought was in witnessing how powerfully social media, the internet and social media, swung the pendulum of social change in one direction, was the very thing that made me think about other times huge changes have happened in society in general. And one which I was very much a part of. I witnessed and lived through this big shift, this big pendulum swing, was back when I was in high school. In the 1990s. I was in high school in the probably the 1990s. And rap, hip hop started to become a very popular thing. And by today's standards, it might be considered very corny stuff. At least some of it was very corny stuff. Not all of it was, but it really hit the world by storm. It really transformed the world. And this was a very big thing to be a part of. It was a new world of music from a new culture, from a new race. But it wasn't like in the past with jazz and stuff like that, where segregation still played a very big part in the development of this art. But it was what broke the segregation. It was what, not entirely, of course. We still have racism and stuff like that in abundance, but back in high school, it was rap represented artists who were revolutionizing the music industry, but not just revolutionizing it, also expecting to be respected as artists and expecting society to treat them a certain way. And it was a breakthrough in society in many, many ways, where a lot of white kids, myself included, took to it immediately. And rap was something that really grabbed me and really resonated with me because of its connection to dance. And I didn't realize this till later on in my life, but I realized I pretty much grabbed onto every single dance revolution that I came in contact with. It always moved me, from rap music to hip hop to swing to jive to salsa, etc. I was always riding that dance wave. So this is something that I really wanted to be a part of. But there was a challenge to it. Not every white boy was allowed in the club right off the bat. You had to prove yourself. You had to prove your authenticity. And at the beginning, there was no authenticity to be proven because it didn't represent my past. It didn't represent where I grew up. It didn't represent the life I had to live. It wasn't a reality I was aware of. It was just, I just came in as a fair weather fan who wanted to, who just wanted to profit and just wanted to benefit from the joys that came with this music without taking into account and respecting the history that created it and the culture that created it. And for a little while, especially at the very beginning, when that pendulum swung hard in one direction, I was never mistreated in any, major way, but there was a bit of ridicule. I was laughed at, when I'd walk into school dressed in certain ways, which I am never going to show you a picture of. I'll be damned if you ever see how stupid I looked back then, but to me, I didn't look stupid. To me, it was important, at least at the time. Now it's really damn stupid, but I was laughed at. I was alienated, all those different types of things. For whatever stubborn reason, I kept pushing through it. Not because I wanted to be some, quote, wannabe or anything like that, just because it was just something that mattered to me and I wanted to be a part of it. Eventually, as the years passed, that pendulum started to swing back in the opposite direction. When rappers and hip-hop artists, anybody who pioneered this industry, felt the confidence and felt the recognition that they didn't have to fight to be respected, when that respect started to become commonplace, they started to loosen the reins a little bit of control over the direction that this took. And their acceptance to other people walking into this industry who might not come from the same background started to open up, and less judgment. There was less judgment involved in it. And it, as such, this culture of rap and hip hop deserved and earned its place in history as it does today. As we've witnessed its evolution over several decades. And rap artists took on a far more relaxed grip on it, and they allowed things to just flow. I know I'm speaking carefully. It's because this is important, and I want to make sure that you get my message clearly. Okay, so this is what I witnessed happen. I witnessed that pendulum swing heavily in one direction, and I felt it. I was a part of that pendulum swing, and then I felt that tension wear off as it swung back in the opposite direction and finally started to settle towards the middle. Same could be said for women in the workforce. Same thing could be said for homosexuals or transvestites in the workforce or in the military. Something that we're witnessing happening right now. Think about any high school student and the role that they play in the LGBTQ communities. My daughter, my daughter doesn't have a single straight friend. It's remarkable that she's straight, but she doesn't have a single straight friend. She's an active, passionate lover of the trans community and the culture therein, and it's just commonplace. Nobody thinks anything of it. So how does all of this lead to today's conversation about social media, the future of social media, and your place therein, the role that you're going to be playing in it, and the role that it's going to be playing in your life? Well, it all comes down to balance. Everything on this planet, from what you see to what you hear, smell, taste, and touch, to the universe that we live in. And on that note, congratulations for the first photograph of the black hole that we saw a few days ago. Well done. Applause to that. But everything in this universe, everything in every galaxy is based around the laws of balance. Not too much, not too little. And any drastic change that knocks off the course of this balance, it knocks that equilibrium off, will eventually settle itself back in the middle. And as I've said many times, and as many people have said many times, social media, internet, is probably one of the most aggressive and drastic pendulum swings we've ever experienced in the history of humankind. It has completely and utterly transformed the way every single person lives their life. And it didn't happen at the same speed as the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution changed things pretty quickly, but the internet changed things within a matter of 5 years. Within a matter of 5 to 10 years, the entire world had been assimilated by internet, because it is offering us access to anything we want at any time we want. We have it in our pocket. It's portable. It's the size of it's the size of a third of a deck of cards, and it sits in our pocket, and we have access to it any time we want. There is an incredible convenience that has come with it. And as such, it consumed us. It continues to consume us, but it's not consuming us quite as much as it was maybe 3-4 years ago, and not quite as much as it was maybe 7-8 years ago. I'm slowly starting to see people relax about it. The same way I saw, revolutionary rap artists relax about it, and watching my friends who were a part of the rap community relax about it. People just start to settle down with it and say, it's okay. We don't need to hold on with two hands anymore. We can let go with one hand and go do something else with it. Have our lattes with it instead. And that's what's happening with social media. And these people who have been standing at the top of this hill, who have been the bread and butter of YouTube, the millions and millions of subscriber YouTubers, the big names, know from experience that they're just people who decided to turn a camera on themselves and film themselves doing something, and came up with an idea and decided to make it a regular thing in their living rooms. And before you knew it, there were millions of people subscribing to them, and they had sponsorships, and they had all these different deals, and people sending them free products, and they were getting big checks from YouTube, and blah, 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 blah. And their whole lives were transformed. I'm sure they weren't planning for their lives to be transformed by social media, but it was. But at a certain point, they couldn't keep on being some guy in his living room coming up with 50 amazing facts for the rest of his life. He knew that his life meant something more. And you might be aspiring to be that person. You're aspiring to be something that's already destined for failure, aren't you? If you're somebody who posts on ArtStation and wants to be the most popular artist, you're somebody who's posting on YouTube and you want to be the most popular YouTube artist, or you're somebody who's posting on Instagram and you want to be the most popular Instagram artist. It's finite, and it's an illusion, because it's too big for you and me. And at a certain point, you realize that social media and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and whatever it is that you're dealing with, whatever it is that you're trying to promote yourself on, is an insatiable beast that will never, never stop wanting more. The more you feed it, the bigger it gets, the hungrier it gets, the more you got to feed it. And unless you keep upping your game more and more and more, and remember, you're just a single person, unless you keep upping your game more and more and putting more and more of yourself into it, and something kicks off, and oh my God, this is a popular video, this is a popular image, do more things like that. And the more you keep feeding it, the more it's just going to keep asking it for more, until eventually you have zero control over your content and your life. That's the true reason why Kaylee Lees and Matthew Santoro and I can't keep it, Jake Roper, something like that. I can't remember what his name is, from Vsauce 3, and I keep forgetting her name. Miranda Sings, Colleen Ballinger, and all these different YouTubers are starting to say, you know what, I'm pretty depressed. And a lot of them are saying, oh, I had depression before I got into YouTube. It's something I've been dealing with for a long time. Maybe in some cases, but my personal opinion is, in a lot of cases, it's YouTube that's put them into a depression. How long do you think you can continue to put a smile on your face in front of a camera and be obliged to do that for 7 to 10 to 15 years? How And you got to do this 5 days a week. How long do you think you can keep that up until eventually your soul just can't handle it anymore? It burns you out. And that's what it'll do. It'll consume you, exsanguinate you, and spit you out on the side of the curb as a shallow husk of a human being. That's what it's going to do, because it doesn't care who you are. It just cares that you keep people coming back to their platform as often as possible. You're making them money. This is something I spoke about at length in my last video about social media. It can't keep up this way. And as a result, because these big name YouTubers are starting to fall out of the race, or these big name Instagrammers are starting to fall out of the race, people are starting to wake up to the reality of it. People are starting to realize, you know what, I'm sick and tired of looking at pictures of people's cats. And if you don't want any clearer evidence of that, look at how quickly the mega Goliath social media giant called Facebook is dying. I literally have zero desire to go on Facebook. I haven't for well over a year and a half at this point. I've told my students and my friends, if you want to get in touch with me, email me. Don't Facebook me, because I might not get your message for a month. I don't go on Facebook anymore. I also don't go on Instagram that much anymore. I produce my regular content on YouTube, but I keep it at a manageable pace. I don't commit to something I can't keep up with over a long term. I made that decision a long time ago. Moving forward, as more and more people start to realize this, we're going to start witnessing social media having to make changes, having to change the formula. Because people are, quite frankly, getting sick of it. Even teenagers are getting sick of it. Even people in their early 20s and 30s, they're getting sick of it. Because think about it. By the time you've reached your 20s, you've probably had at least 11, 12 years of social media. That's a long time to be doing the same thing every day. You get tired of it, even after 5 years. So the big question is, and this is a question I'm posing to you as well. I'm going to give you my own initial thoughts on this, but this thought is a work in progress. I want to hear your opinion on this in the comments below. And that is, when this pendulum swings in the opposite direction, where exactly is it going to land? How are things going to settle, and how is that going to affect social media? Well, look at what the human species needs. Look at what we as people have been most concerned about. Health risks of not having enough human contact. The social implications of having a bunch of Facebook friends but having few to none in real life because you've developed a complete dependency on it. Not that I think that's the biggest problem. I see my daughter, she's in high school and she's in college now, and she's got very stable long-term friends, and she's very happy that way. Not everybody, though. Some people feel the need to depend a little bit too much on social media for socializing. Sometimes that's the best they can get, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. But what's missing from social media is the humanity. It's become something so big and so hungry and so insatiable and so overwhelming that it's no longer viable and attainable, or it's becoming less and less viable and attainable to the day-to-day person. It is way too fragile in the sense that if one celebrity who makes some tasteless joke, I was just watching this on TED the other day, a guy who was talking about people who screwed up in social media and how that completely destroyed their lives because of one bad tweet. One person puts out a joke that might be misinterpreted as being racist or being anti-Semitic when they were just kind of being tongue-in-cheek about it, but it completely destroys their lives because the angry mob comes and gets them. That's a very fragile system, isn't it? It's not like you're sitting down in a party with 5 of your friends and you say some racy joke and your friend smacks you in the back of your head and says, "Will you shut that shit off? That's not very funny." And you go, "Sorry." To spreading a tweet that goes viral across the planet and you get death threats from people across the globe. That's a very big difference, right? It's inhuman. It doesn't respect humanity. It is too big and it is too global, and therefore, when good or bad things happen, if they do ever happen, which is extremely difficult to make any kind of significant change in social media, It either makes you or it breaks you. It either makes your life flourish or it can destroy you. And the more popularity you get, the more famous you get, the more notoriety you get, the more support you get, the more on an edge you're standing. Because if you screw up even one little thing, you're going to get flicked right off that cliff. And that'll be the end of you. No coming back. There's a permanent record of your evilness. That's not a healthy, balanced environment. A balanced think of social media being a relationship. Imagine being married to somebody for 20 years. You have your entire lives, you've been together since you were in high school, and you were high school sweethearts, and now you're in your 50s and 60s, and you've been in love, and you've been supporting each other for years and years and years and years, and you've had 5 kids together, and you raised them together, and you've been through your ups and downs, and then one of you farts in bed. And you aren't only dumped and left alone 5 years before your retirement, but you are shunned by your community, and you're labeled as somebody vile and disgusting. Imagine that was real life. Well, that's what real life doesn't do that to you, but social media does. And therefore, it no longer is a reflection of who we are as people. And it's no longer a reflection of who we are as creators, as artists. When this pendulum swings in the opposite direction, it's going to be because people are sick of it. People are tired of this stupidity. It's gotten too big for them, and it's so big, it's so accessible that it's inaccessible, that it feels alienating. It becomes impossible to create those connections that you thought you could make at one point. And when people start to lose interest, social media is going to start to change its tone. The future pioneers of social media, who are, by the way, working on it as we speak, I'm pretty sure, are going to work towards developing a social media that gets you out of the house. Maybe taking some lessons and cues from Pokemon Go, right? Where that one app for about a month got everybody out of their house, right? Where there would be huge communities of people all out looking for Pokemons. Maybe they'll take cues from that. They're going to listen more and more to day-to-day social media users like you and me, who basically say, I don't really feel like doing this anymore. I'm kind of tired of being on Facebook. I'm sick and tired of looking at other people's fake smiles all the time. I'm looking for something authentic. And they're going to try to find a way to bring social media outside of the house into the world around us and promote human connections, promote us getting off of our asses. It's going to become even more mobile than it is right now, because current mobile technology does allow you to use social media outside, but it forces you to look down all the time. It forces you to look at your hand all the time instead of lift your eyes and look at everybody else. I'm sure the direction that VR is going right now is going to play a very big important role in it. Like, Google Glasses and stuff like that. I know that didn't kick off, but that was a first attempt at something. We're going to be seeing more and more of this moving forward. But most importantly, what we're going to be seeing is that people are not going to be relying on social media. Social media is not going to be all-consuming, all-important. It won't be the Lord of all humans as it is today. It'll just be an accent, a seasoning to the human experience. Because right now it's the entire freaking dish. It's the entire meal. But in the next 5, 10, 15 years, people are going to bring that balance. And those celebrities, those big names in social media are going to, one at a time, when they see that the ends don't justify the means, when they see, just like Matthew Santoro did, he said, I had my stride, I had my peak, and that peak started to come down and down and down. And the more effort he put into it, and the more he put himself into it, and the harder he tried, it did make a difference. That curve just kept on dipping. It's like what's happening with World of Warcraft. They keep trying to invent. They keep trying to innovate. Stop innovating. It doesn't matter. That downward spiral is going down. There's only so long that things can stay a certain way. To me, the biggest changer of social media in the future is not going to be some pioneer who decides to change the way social media functions. It's going to be us, the users. We are going to change. We are going to be less interested in it. We're going to be looking for the next best thing. The novelty of having everything we need in our pockets going to just be another thing we have access to. But that desire to get out and be a part of the world around us is what's going to take over, as it should. That is where humanity has been since its inception. And that's where we're going to go moving forward. And internet's just going to be another facet of that life that we live. As artists, what kind of a role can we play in this, and how can we help to fashion this change? Through our attitudes. One of the major points of my last social media talk back at the beginning of 2019 was, you can't keep chasing after this popularity, similar to what I'm talking about today, and that you have to start taking ownership of your own tempo, your own speed, your own pace, your own rhythm, because that plays an integral role in the type of art that you produce and the quality of art that you produce. Where I feel social media is going for artists is that we are going to start incubating our art. We're going to start creating our own unique ecosystems of art. It's not going to be compartmentalized, or at least the structure of social media that I believe is not going to be one big hub where everybody hangs out. It's rather going to be customizable, individual hubs that everybody can use to create their own platform, their own speed, their own form of presentation. They'll take ownership of it. Their social media will be their own creative production. And it will welcome in those who like it. Think about how this type of structure will revolutionize the future of social media. One big thing that really revolutionized my life, and a trend that I saw take off very quickly, like very shortly after I made this decision in my own life, was the privatization of my career. I'm speaking, of course, about my private art mentorship. There was something deep within me that felt the need to make personal connections with people. That when I taught, as much as I love to teach, and as much as I love the college I taught at, I could see how the structure of schools had gotten too big to be of the use that it wishes to be, despite the phenomenal teachers and the mediocre resources and the terrible lack of funding because the government couldn't keep up paying for it. It just got too big, and it got too political, and the school system as a whole in most countries is in shambles, to be quite frank, right? It's not in good shape. It's losing money. Teachers are discontent. They're disillusioned because they've got growing numbers of students. In Ontario, they just had a huge protest because they're trying to cut funding and increase the number of students that teachers need to teach when they just already have too many. And I know what it's like being a teacher with 40, 50 students in my class and having to correct all that work and having to have private time with every one of those students. It's not a system that works. I decided, and I made a very strong, very firm decision to keep it private. Maybe one day semi-private, but that's a decision I'm not going to take lightly. I'm not going to make that decision lightly. That's something that I've given a lot of thought, but I'm not sure. As it stands right now, I teach every one of my students one at a time. It's me and you. That's it. This sounds like I'm promoting my school. I'm not. This is the attitude, this is the thought, the feeling. To me, I always dreamt of the opportunity growing up to be able to sit down with somebody who had skill and say, how the hell do I do this? And what do I do this? And I loved the opportunity to be able to pick somebody's brain and interrupt them anytime I needed, to be able to say, no, how do you do that? And how did you do this? And how do you do this so fast? And how do you do that so well? And based on the life that I live now, based on the career that I have today, I made a gesture. I started the school back in 2015, and it has become my full-time job. It became my full-time job within 3 months. You need that too. We all do. We understand each other as artists. We understand what we need as artists, as people. We need that individualized experience. We need to feel like we're not just a freaking, we don't want to feel like we're a cockroach in a bucket. We want to feel like we have somebody that we can turn to. We need that personal experience. The same way we need a mother and a father in our life, or brothers and sisters, or needing close friends. We need somebody that we can have when we need him. That private experience, that personalized experience. And that trend kicked off. Now there's masterclass, your private mentor, with all the big names in all these different industries all over the place. Mentorships are popping up all over the place. It's becoming the new, quote, trend. Well, it's going to go beyond that. Not only will schools and institutions become private experiences, one-on-one experiences. Video games might become one-on-one experiences. Schools might become one-on-one experiences. What it's doing is I think the real purpose of social media, as it's starting to unfold today, is creating an ecosystem, creating an environment where the individual can connect with the individual to help the other individual grow. Think about that for a second. Think about the roles that people will play, where you're not trying to get the job in that big studio. You're not trying to get the job in that big institution. You're not trying to get the job at Google. You're not trying to get the job, at Blizzard. You create your own little private job, and you offer your service to one other person. And I find that the very structure of business and the very structure of internet greatly diminishes the quality of the individual, because it forces you to try to fit into a very specific mold, when, as we know, as individuals, we're all very different. And I find, ironically, that this one-on-one experience, this one-on-one connection that I have with people, has given me a far greater reach globally than anything I ever could have imagined. Because when I try to scream into the void at 1 million people, I'm drowned out by the sounds of everybody else's voice. But when I can make a personal connection, when I can create a personal relationship with every single one of my students, I remember and care for everyone. They all mean the world to me. As individuals, everybody's uniqueness is celebrated. I believe that moving forward, or at least one of the major changes that I believe is going to be happening to social media, as I see it happening right now already, is that the online world doesn't only have the ability to reach out globally, but it has a more important ability to be able to reach out individually. It can reach out to each person individually. And what that does is it empowers everybody with the ability to employ themselves. It can have incredible economic impacts, where people are no longer being employed by an all-governing entity, where people are governing themselves, and where people start to contribute to each other. Your friend's starting a business, your friend wants to start their own art school. Well, I've been doing it for a little while. Let me show you how it's done. And why don't we collaborate and get 10 people together to show you how it's done so you can do your own thing? And all of a sudden, people start to sprout. All of a sudden, innovation starts to take off, because everybody can exploit the greatest of their abilities. I'm extremely excited about this. I'm very much looking forward to it. And I personally do not feel like the future of social media as it exists, or as it will exist, is a doom and gloom scenario. In fact, feel it's going to be an incredibly empowering, incredibly emotionally beautiful thing. And it's going to finally swing back towards the middle and settle as it's supposed to. Settle as a tool that we can use as individuals to help make the world a better place, instead of feeling like we're completely obsolete because we're 1 in a billion and we're all trying to grab that same carrot at the end of the same stick, when we know only the fastest and the strongest is going to grab it. I want you to create your own stick. I want you to create your own goal. And I really do believe that that's where things are going. And I don't really think that we're going to need to force it to go in that direction or demand any drastic social change. I think our very disinterest is going to mold it in this direction. But what I want you to do is, as artists, as creators, you are also pioneers. And as a pioneer, I want you to start thinking about how you, as an individual, can use this. What kind of a future can you create for yourself? What kind of a world, an idealized world, can you create for yourself and the future of your career and your relationships with the people you care for? And I wouldn't worry so much about being Mr. or Mrs. Popular on Instagram, or Mr. and Mrs. Popular on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or whatever platform, because they're going to come and go. And your popularity will be very finite. And even if you do reach the top bar, your hands are going to eventually tire, and you will let it go, and you will fall. You will voluntarily let go of that bar yourself, even if you reach the very, very top. I want you to start thinking about that moving forward. And furthermore, more importantly, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I don't think there could be a more wonderful crowd, wonderful community of people to share this conversation with than a platform full of very creative people. I think we are and we will be moving forward the pioneers of this movement. So have at it. And let me know in the comments below. Let's share this conversation. Let's share our thoughts. Nothing is taboo. Go for it. And of course, as always, I love you all with all my heart, and happy painting. Take care.